In life, darkness is not the enemy, it is the teacher. It comes quietly, without warning, and often stays longer than we would like. Yet within this stillness, within this absence of clarity and light, something essential is revealed. Darkness is not sent to punish us, it arrives to refine us. In many ways, it is more honest than light, because it does not pretend. It strips away the surface, the illusions we hold, and exposes what lies underneath. When the world outside becomes dim, it is not a call to panic, but a call to return inward. Just as nature has seasons, the human spirit also cycles through periods of brightness and shadow. There is a reason seeds are planted in soil, not in the sky. Growth requires burial. It requires silence. Before anything blossoms, it must first disappear. The caterpillar wraps itself in darkness, alone and unseen, before it ever takes flight as a butterfly. Alone and unseen, before it ever takes flight as a butterfly. The same law applies to human transformation. Without periods of darkness, without the space to be still and undistracted, we rarely evolve. Darkness forces us to listen more deeply. It heightens senses that are dulled by constant brightness. When the lights go out, we begin to hear our own thoughts more clearly. We notice emotions we have long ignored. We feel the rhythm of our breath, the tension in our shoulders, the restlessness of our heart. What we often fear about darkness is not the absence of light, but the presence of truth. In the light, we stay busy, moving from one task to the next, always able to distract ourselves. But in the dark, there is nowhere to run, there is nothing to scroll. The truth of who we are and how we've been living rises to the surface. If 3 days of darkness were truly to come, not just physically but spiritually, it would not be a catastrophe. It would be a sacred opportunity, a pause granted by the universe to reset, to remember, to realign. Most people would resist it, grasping for flashlights and distractions, clinging to anything that gives the illusion of control. But the wise would sit with it. They would allow the silence to speak. They would ask, not, how do I get out of this, but what is this here to show me? So many of us are afraid of stillness because we equate it with stagnation. But stillness is not the absence of motion, it is the presence of awareness. When we stop chasing light, we begin to understand where it truly lives. Not outside, but within. Darkness reveals that we've been outsourcing our clarity, our confidence, our peace. We've been depending on external conditions to feel stable. When those conditions are stripped away, we finally see what we have built inside. It is easy to feel spiritual when the sun is shining and life goes according to plan. But the real test, the real initiation, comes in the darkness. Can you remain calm when nothing is certain? Can you stay soft when fear knocks at the door? Can you trust that this too, like everything else, is part of your path? Darkness demands humility. It reminds us that we do not control as much as we believe. And in that surrender, there is profound power. When we let go of needing answers, we become open to receiving wisdom. Not the kind taught in books, but the kind etched in the silence of our being. Wisdom that emerges only when the world goes quiet. Many ancient traditions understood this. They would send initiates into caves, into deserts, into long fasts and nights without sleep. Not to harm them, but to awaken something deeper. They knew that transformation does not happen in comfort. It happens at the edge, in the unknown, in the space where the old self dissolves and the new self is not yet formed. 3 days of darkness then are not a warning, they are a metaphor. A reflection of what each of us must pass through at different points in life. A breakup, a loss, an illness, a failure. These too are forms of darkness. They strip us of certainty. They blind us to the future. But if we endure them with awareness, with courage and with presence, they leave behind gifts more valuable than anything gained in the light. One of those gifts is clarity. In the dark, we realize what truly matters. The noise fades. The distractions fall away. We remember the simplicity of life, breath, presence, love, purpose. We are no longer pulled in 100 directions. We become centered, focused, aware. Another gift is gratitude. When the light returns, we do not take it for granted, we cherish it. We see it not as our right, but as a blessing. The sunrise becomes sacred. The smile of a loved one becomes a miracle. The sound of birds becomes music. But perhaps the greatest gift of all is resilience. When we walk through darkness and come out whole, we begin to trust ourselves. Not because we avoided suffering, but because we faced it. We know what we are capable of. We know that even in the absence of external support, we can remain steady. And that confidence cannot be faked. It must be earned through experience. So let us not fear the darkness. Let us welcome it as we would a wise teacher. One who does not flatter us, but tells us the truth. One who does not entertain us, but transforms us. When the darkness comes, whether for 3 days or for a season, breathe, be still, listen. The light you are searching for is already within you. The darkness is only here to help you see it more clearly. Many people, when faced with uncertainty or the talk of coming darkness, immediately begin to ask when it will happen. They watch the calendar, scan the news, calculate dates, look for signs. Their energy moves outward, always trying to grasp the future, hoping that if they just know when, they can be ready. But in doing so, they miss the deeper message. True readiness is not about dates. It is not about stocking up or setting alarms. It is not about preparing the clock. It is about preparing the mind. When change comes, it rarely announces itself. Life shifts suddenly. A conversation ends a relationship. A diagnosis changes a life. A single event shakes everything we thought was solid. These moments do not wait for us to be ready. They do not give us warnings. They simply arrive. And how we meet them depends not on how much we anticipated them, but on the state of our inner world when they arrive. To prepare the mind is to train it daily, not in fear, but in presence. It is to cultivate a mind that does not panic in the unknown, that does not cling to control, that does not shatter at the first sign of discomfort. This is not something that can be done in a moment of crisis. It must be built slowly, like a tree growing roots. You do not wait for the storm to begin digging into the earth. You begin today. Every breath you take with awareness is preparation. Every moment you choose stillness instead of distraction is a form of training. When you resist the urge to react, to complain, to escape, you are strengthening the mind. Not so that life becomes easier, but so that you become more stable in the face of difficulty. Like the mountain that remains unmoved while the clouds change above it, the mind that is always checking clocks, watching the world, waiting for a sign, is a restless mind. And restlessness is not a place of strength. It is born from fear and sustained by habit. A prepared mind, however, is rooted. It is still. It is aware of what's happening, but not consumed by it. It observes without being overwhelmed. It responds instead of reacting. This kind of mind does not come from rushing to be ready. It comes from slowing down and learning to remain. Some people think that preparation means building walls, collecting tools, or planning escape routes. But often the most important preparation is invisible. It is your attitude when things do not go your way. It is your ability to remain kind under pressure. It is the discipline of returning to your breath when fear arises. This kind of preparation cannot be faked. It cannot be borrowed. It can only be built through quiet, consistent practice. You prepare the mind by how you live each day, how you wake, how you speak, how you treat others when no one is watching. You prepare the mind by honoring the simple things, by being grateful for your meals, by moving your body with intention, by sitting in silence even when the world urges you to scroll, rush, consume. These are not small acts. These are the foundation. They are the quiet rituals that create inner strength long before any crisis appears. To prepare the mind is also to release expectations. Many people want guarantees. They want a map, a schedule, a promise that if they do certain things, everything will turn out fine. But life does not follow our plans. It follows its own rhythm, and trying to control it only leads to more suffering. Preparation then is not about making the path predictable. It's about becoming adaptable. It's about being ready to adjust, to let go, to move with life instead of against it. There is a kind of quiet power in someone who no longer fears change, who no longer needs to know when something will happen, but focuses instead on how they will meet it when it does. These are the ones who remain steady in the chaos, not because they are lucky, but because they have prepared the only thing they can truly control: themselves. It is not always dramatic. Sometimes preparation looks like going to bed on time, drinking enough water, stretching your body, telling the truth, apologizing when needed, practicing patience. These things may seem ordinary, but when life becomes unstable, they become anchors. The simple, consistent actions are often the strongest source of support when everything else is uncertain. Is part of the preparation. There is nothing wrong with being aware of possible changes in the world, but awareness is not the same as obsession. Awareness is spacious. It sees clearly, but does not panic. Obsession narrows the mind, fills it with noise and drains its strength. To prepare wisely is to walk the middle path, seeing clearly what may come, but staying grounded in what is here now. And so the greatest preparation is not in predicting what's next. It is in mastering this moment. Not in watching the sky, but in quieting the mind. Not in waiting for darkness, but in learning to carry your own light, no matter the hour. There is a kind of noise that surrounds modern life, a constant hum, both external and internal, that rarely ceases. From morning to night, we are exposed to voices, opinions, headlines, images, and endless choices. Even in moments when we appear still on the outside, the mind is often racing on the inside. In such a world, silence can feel unfamiliar, even frightening. Yet it is only in silence that we begin to hear something deeper than the noise: the truth. Silence has a presence. It is not just the absence of sound, but the opening of space. It invites us to listen, not just with the ears, but with the whole being. When all the distractions fall away, when there is no more news to read, no more voices to follow, no more screens to stare into, what remains is the self, exposed and unfiltered. And for many, this is uncomfortable, because silence does not entertain, it confronts. Most people are not afraid of silence because it is boring. They fear silence because it reveals what they've been avoiding. In the quiet, emotions begin to rise: regret, fear, longing, sadness, questions with no answers. Parts of ourselves we buried beneath busyness. These things do not appear to torment us, but to be seen, to be healed. And that healing cannot happen through distraction. It happens through deep listening. If 3 days of darkness were to fall upon the earth, and we were truly removed from all devices, all contact, all outer stimulation, we would be given a rare gift: an enforced stillness, a global pause. Some would resist. They would pace, worry, reach for comfort. But others would settle. They would begin to notice the sound of their own breath, the beating of their heart, the subtle shifts in thought. They would meet themselves, perhaps for the first time, without noise between them. What truth does silence reveal? It reveals what matters most. In the absence of stimulation, we begin to see the difference between what is necessary and what is excess. Much of what we chase loses meaning in the quiet. Status, comparison, approval. These things rely on the presence of others. In silence, we are reminded of the simplicity of life: presence, peace, awareness. These are not things that must be earned. They are already available when we stop interfering with them. In silence, we hear our intuition more clearly, the quiet inner voice that is often drowned out by louder, more urgent ones. This voice does not shout. It does not argue. It waits, patiently, It speaks in feelings, in subtle impressions, in the knowing that arises without logic. And once we begin to trust that voice, life changes. We move not out of fear or pressure, but out of alignment, out of truth. Most of the suffering in life comes not from what is happening, but from the stories we tell about what is happening. Silence helps us untangle those stories. It allows us to observe the mind without becoming it. In doing so, we begin to recognize patterns, reactions we repeat, fears we carry, beliefs we've inherited but never questioned. This awareness is the first step toward freedom. There is also a sacredness to silence. It connects us to something beyond words. In many traditions, the divine is not found in noise, but in the still, small voice within. You do not need to believe in any particular system to feel this. Sit long enough in the quiet, and you begin to sense that life itself is speaking to you. Not in language, but in presence. In the way a candle flickers. In the way the body softens. In the way time seems to slow down. Something deeper is always waiting for us there. But it takes courage to sit in silence. Courage to face the discomfort. Courage to be with what is, instead of what we wish was. And yet, in doing so, something transforms. The mind becomes less frantic. The heart opens. The body settles. We remember that peace is not somewhere we have to go. It is what we are, once the noise has been cleared away. In the dark, when nothing outside is guiding us, we must rely on inner light. And inner light does not reveal itself in chaos. It reveals itself in calm. It is in silence that we learn how to see without our eyes, how to hear without sound, how to know without reason. These are the deeper forms of perception that can guide us through any challenge, not because they provide exact answers, but because they reconnect us to our center. You don't need to wait for darkness to arrive to discover this. You can practice silence now, a few minutes each day, not to escape the world, but to re-enter it with more clarity, to train your mind to listen instead of react, to create a space inside yourself that is untouched by the chaos outside. This space is not empty. It is full of insight, of peace, of wisdom, but you must be quiet enough to enter it. There is a reason the most profound truths are often spoken in whispers or not spoken at all. Truth is not always loud. It does not always make headlines. Often it arrives like a breeze, soft and sudden. And if we are too distracted, we miss it. But if we are still, if we are present, we feel it land. And that one moment of clarity can change the direction of a life. So when silence comes to you, whether by choice or by force, welcome it. Do not rush to fill the space. Do not panic at the absence of stimulation. Sit, listen, breathe, let the quiet speak. You may discover that what you've been searching for in the outer world has been waiting for you in the silence all along. When the world turns dark, whether literally, emotionally, or spiritually, it becomes clear what you've truly built within yourself. In those moments, strength is not found in theories, promises, or hopes. It is found in what you have practiced, in the habit you've shaped, in the foundation you've laid. And this foundation, quietly and consistently formed, is called discipline. Discipline is not a harsh word. It is not rigid or punishing. Real discipline is not about forcing yourself through life. It is about aligning yourself with something deeper, something steady, something that does not change when the lights go out. It is your inner candle, lit long before you ever needed it, now guiding you through the dark. There will be times in life when clarity disappears, when the path ahead is uncertain, when fear whispers louder than hope. And in those moments, discipline becomes your structure. It becomes the container that holds you steady while everything else moves. When the mind begins to spiral, when the emotions become heavy, it is the disciplined person who still sits, still breathes, still moves forward. Many imagine that strength will come to them suddenly when they need it most. that when the crisis comes, they'll rise to the occasion. But in truth, you do not rise to the occasion. You fall to the level of your training. If you have not practiced stillness, you will not be still. If you have not practiced awareness, you will be pulled into reaction. If you have not practiced presence, you will become lost in the past or afraid of the future. This is why discipline matters, not as a punishment, but as preparation. The disciplined life is not about perfection, it is about consistency. It is choosing the right action again and again, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. It's rising with the sun not because you feel like it, but because you said you would. It's sitting in silence, not because it's comfortable, but because you know it builds strength. It's speaking with kindness, moving with intention, eating with awareness, and living in alignment with your values, whether or not anyone is watching. This kind of discipline is not loud, it does not seek attention. It works quietly in the background, shaping your character one decision at a time. And when the darkness comes, it reveals itself. It shows in how calmly you breathe, in how clearly you see, in how steadily you walk. While others are searching for light from outside, you already carry your own. Most people want to feel strong, but they do not want to do the small, repetitive tasks that create that strength. They want peace, but not the discipline of quieting the mind daily. They want resilience, but not the effort of rising each time they fall. But the truth is simple. The way you live your ordinary days is what determines how you face extraordinary circumstances. The training is not separate from the challenge. The training is not separate from the challenge. The training is the preparation for it. Discipline is not about denying pleasure or being hard on yourself. It is about choosing what serves you over what seduces you. In the moment, it is easier to stay in bed than to get up and move your body. It is easier to scroll than to sit in stillness. It is easier to escape into distraction than to face what's inside. But ease is not always kindness. What is easy now often makes life harder later. What is difficult now often creates ease later. There is wisdom in structure. The body understands rhythm. The mind finds peace in clarity. When you establish routines, rituals, and boundaries, you create a container for your energy. You stop leaking your focus in every direction. You stop being pulled by every emotion, every desire, every disturbance. You know where to return when things fall apart. That return point, that still center, is built through discipline. In the dark, you will not feel like doing what is good for you. You may not feel like breathing deeply, or meditating, or showing up with compassion, but if you have trained yourself in those practices, they will come to you anyway, like muscle memory, like instinct. And that is the true purpose of discipline, not to control life, but to prepare yourself to meet life, no matter how it arrives. You do not train only for sunny days, you train for the storm. You train not just for the peaceful moments, but for the chaos. Discipline is what allows you to remain kind when you're exhausted, focused when you're afraid, and grounded when the world turns upside down. It keeps you close to your values when your emotions would pull you away from them. It keeps you clear in a time of confusion. The candle of discipline does not flicker in the wind. It is held steady by commitment, by the choice you make each day to return to what matters. And the beautiful thing is this: the more you practice, the easier it becomes. Discipline is not a heavy chain, it is a key.